Hey, everyone. It's so great to be with you here again this week on the latest episode of Get on the Grid with Chessie Roberts. My guest tonight is a returning guest. Her name is Alana Kay, and she and I would like for you to join with us to align with the energies of co-creation so that you get the best information to your highest good and best outcome. Welcome, Alana. It's nice to have you back.
Hi, thanks for having me. Fun as always.
For anyone who hasn't yet met Alana, she is a spiritual intuitive, an author and publisher. Her current book is titled Heaven is Here, The Art of Ascension. Her book makes it clear that Earth has ascended into the fifth dimension and that it's beneficial, if not critical, that we also ascend. This means that we need to align with our soul, practice present moment awareness, and that's a good one, take responsibility for our creations, and learn how to live more deeply and with more meaning than we did before. Alana, I think this is a really timely book. What made you decide to write it?
I think the fact that since I was as young as I can remember, 3 years old, I remember pondering the meaning of life and metaphysics, and I, as well as other intuitives or sensitives, felt presences around me, saw presences, heard words of wisdom throughout the years. And it wasn't until I was older that I felt a compelling need to start to put everything together and have it make sense and live a different lifestyle that I realized that the lack of a spiritually integrated lifestyle is what was causing problems for people. And so as time has gone on and I've done readings through the years, I come and go on that. Sometimes I do them for a few years and then I stop doing them. I find that because of the dimension shifting, it's really become urgent. And I thought, well, I have this lifetime of experience and all of these things. And when I talk to other people, they don't really know the whole story. They have bits and pieces. So I wanted to take everything, and that's kind of like how I operate anyway. Anything I'm an expert at, I love to just homogenize everything and boil it down and give it to people in a way that they can understand. I come from an expert point of view, but then I present it in a way that many people can understand it. And I'm not talking down to people. I like to empower people. So I decided to put that all in a book. And I've been pretty busy the last couple of years, so it took me quite some time. I have a couple more books that will come out about law of attraction because there's a lot of tweaking on that. There's been a lot of talk about that. So I felt an urgency to get all this information down in a way that people could really digest it and really start using it.
Well, that's wonderful because I know that a lot of my listeners have a lot of questions. I recently did a show with a panel of people, and we were talking about ascension and what that means and what it's all about, how it happens, and is it hard, and why is it so elusive and all of that. So this book is a great follow-up for anybody looking for that information. I want to ask you just a few questions to sort of get everybody on the same page. When you say fifth dimension, what are you talking about actually? What does that mean?
There's a lot of talk about dimensions, and I encourage people not to get too hung up on it. From where we come from, the point of our physical density, understanding the dimensions, we need a general idea of it because we sense the dimensions not through our logical centers, but through our feeling center. So the fifth dimension, to put it simply, would be the dimension of the heart, the dimension of the soul. And what we customarily refer to the third dimension as is the one that's more physically focused. And, there's scads of books, and we could have conversations forever about the third dimension, but it had its purpose. There was things that went off course, things went back on course, and there was a reason for it. For one thing, when we function, we come from a way higher vibrating place, then we have to step down our vibration to come onto the planet. Now even though the planet is bumped up, still we need to experience a denser reality as we're learning how to be these co-creators, because in the denser reality of the third dimension, our creations moved a lot slower. Now that we're in the fifth dimension, the third dimension is actually collapsing, and I'll explain that shortly. But in the fifth dimension, our creations, our thoughts, our feelings are manifesting instantly. And the third dimension was kind of like practice. So now that,
I'm sorry, as you were saying that, what dawned on me is, and I got the picture of the little chicken trying to break out of the egg. Mm-hmm. It was our struggle to birth ourselves through this denser third dimension so that we could be ready for what's awaiting
mm-hmm.
us, yeah?
Mhm. Yeah, and the thing is that when I came to Maui, I live on Maui, Hawaii, and it is known to some mystics as the heart chakra of the planet. It has been said to have the highest vibration on the planet, and what happens is when you're in a higher vibration, there aren't gray areas. And when I came here in 1998, I already noticed that it was either heaven or hell, and you had to be really careful what you thought. So what's interesting is what happens here is you either have people who realize that, and they stay in a place of good co-creation, positive co-creation, and you also have your people that just shut down. So we actually have a large amount of people who use drugs, and which is interesting. We have a very high rate of drug use on all of the islands, because some people can't cope with the stepped-up energy, so they just check out. And then you have people who are constantly struggling, and then you have some people who embrace this energy. But like I said, there's no gray area. So I integrated into an energy system like that some time ago, and I have been watching as the energy of the planet has risen. And so I already got those concepts a long time ago, but you do need to play with them. So I think when you mentioned the thing about people, it's kind of elusive because we experience the fifth dimension intermittently. So, and we don't know why. It can go years. We may feel like, oh, wow, we feel all connected to everything. And that's the way the fifth dimension feels. You feel connected in your heart. You feel warmth radiating from within. You feel timeless, and you feel connected to everything. And in the third dimension, we were more separate. And that's what they mean by the veil is thinning.
Oh. Wow.
So what I suggest is I try to give people the mental model of what's going on, and then I give the how to get to that place if you're not there. If somebody has never experienced feeling that way, chances are they're going to say it doesn't exist. Mm-hmm. And the other thing, so there's no need to, if you've never sensed the softer side of life, the beautiful side of life, the side of life that feels like heaven. If you've never even had flashes of that, and you can have flashes of that either in a relationship or a life experience, in a dream, or just kind of out of nowhere. Everybody's experienced it in different ways. But if you've had that, you can do certain things to get back to that place, and you can make it a lifestyle. And
go ahead. This is a whole lot to wrap our little heads around. So, listeners, if you're kind of going, whoa, that's a lot of information, you're absolutely right, because that's kind of where I am right now. And I work in this stuff all day, every day.
I'm going to simplify it for you in a few minutes. Go ahead.
Oh, would you please? That would just be awesome.
It's a lot simpler than people think it is. But go ahead. Was that your main question?
I mean, yes, I was going to ask you if there was a way to simplify it, because my little head's going, yikes.
Right, because there's millions of books, and if you go and you look at websites, and oh my gosh, if you Google Ascension, you're going to find all kinds of stuff. I mean, there's some beautiful, incredible things where they're talking about the Master's teachings and so on and so forth, but there's some really off-the-wall stuff. So there's three main things I want people to understand about Ascension. Well, the first thing is the mental model of Ascension is not, when we think of Ascension because we ascend the steps or we picture Christ coming out of his body or whatever, Ascension is going deeper into your feeling center. A lot of times the universal life we live is a paradox. So Ascension, rising, connecting, raising your vibration actually means going deeper into your feeling center. And I'm going to describe that, and it's actually pretty easy, but it does take time because it takes clearing work. But the three things that I say Ascension is not. It is when you're Googling things on the Internet or reading books or listening to other people talk. It is not leaving your body. It's not leaving and going somewhere else. It is not giving up all your belongings. And it is not about any religion. What it basically is embracing the vortex of creation, which is inside of all of us, and it is everywhere. And it is, I teach it as the aspects of love, because love is the creative force. And the way we understand it, and I'm talking about spiritual love, so very often people have felt that connection when they're falling in love with a person, or they just gave birth to a child, or maybe on Christmas when everything is all lit up and everybody's happy, or maybe even when they used a certain drug. They felt that connection to the creative force. But that force is love, and it has aspects which are in all esoteric teachings. So what I did is I gathered them all together, and also through meditation, and I connect with the masters, I received 2 more aspects, and that there's actually 12 aspects of love. And I don't know if you want me to just run through them. I can, but just to give you a general idea, they're in all esoteric teachings. And you have honesty, gentleness, joy. Actually, most of them are in A Course in Miracles. Honesty, gentleness, joy, tolerance, defenselessness, generosity, patience, faithfulness, open-mindedness, appreciation, expansiveness, and trust. And what it is those are like the manifestations of love on earth. And what happens is we fall out of line. We can be in a blissful place, and then within minutes, we've lost it. And it's because we got impatient about something, or we got angry about something.
Really slam those doors on everything when you get impatient and angry. What vibrated with me, resonated with me, I guess is the word I want, as you were reading those off. Anybody who's familiar with my Get on the Life Energy Grid program, I channel every week for information that comes to me from the Ascended Masters through the grid, and every one of those aspects is touched on in some way, shape, or form every single time I do that.
Oh, interesting. Right, because I got this when I wrote the original manuscript of my book. It was slightly different, and I knew that I had to talk about the subject of love, and what I heard from the Masters immediately, just wandering around the house, was that there were 12 aspects that people had to master. And so mastership is something that we've done lifetime after lifetime, but what's happening now is we're doing an acceleration, where we might have had many lifetimes to work through karma and work through these things, and it's like we're done. We just have to get it done. If we're still mad at our ex-husband, we need to just get over it. we just need to let everything go.
I totally agree with what you're saying, because in my working, and my longtime listeners have heard this before, I thought I had done all my karmic stuff and all my forgiving and all my becoming aware and mastering certain aspects of this particular subject. And one day my guidance came, and they plopped this big pile of poo in the middle of my living room, to which I replied, "What is this?" And they told me, they said, "You've done a great job and you've cleared all this up, except you forgot one thing." And I said, "Oh, goody, what was that?" And they said, "You're going to have to go through it all again and forgive yourself."
Exactly. That's a good one. I was that was one of my sticking points too. Right.
Yeah. I think a lot of people have that particular sticking point, and it's funny now, but when they plopped it down there, wasn't it? It took me about 3-4 months.
And some of those self karma,
the
stuff we put on ourselves, can be the hardest things to process out. And I can't recall right now, because I've been moving through things really quickly, and really had a lot of stuff come back up. Well, we had a Saturn retrograde or something, and then we had a Mercury retrograde. I think it was the Saturn one that really pushed us, like, oh no, here we go again. So that's what I encourage people to do, is when you see something coming around again, don't go, oh crap.
Try to say, all right,
let's try to deny it. Just be ready to do that, because when you're in present moment awareness, anything that's taking you off of present, we'll have to get to that because this is critical. When anything that's taking you off of that is karma.
studio, and my guest tonight is Alana Kay, and she and I are discussing Ascension and the fact that everything is speeding up, and that was what I meant when they brought all that stuff to me, because after I got through with that, Alana, everything did start to speed up.
Oh yeah, right. Then the events that are more in line with your co-created life will start coming in pretty fast.
Right.
Once you get your karma cleared up. And it doesn't mean that it's not going to pop up again, but, there are some big things that get in our way. What I always suggest people do is make sure that you have a focal point for when you know you're in the right place. When you're connected to your soul and all that is, you feel this bliss. There should be a level of bliss. Now, there's going to be a level of bliss somewhere in our body, and it would be in our heart center because that's where it starts. Initially, when we have our light body, this bliss comes from our feeling center because we're feeling nothing but pure unconditional love, and we're in the moment, and then that floods our whole body and all of our energy fields. That's the ideal position to be in. But the thing is, it's just like a muscle. Go ahead.
When I'm there in that place you're talking about, everything is just beautiful, and I feel lighter than air.
Right. And you almost feel like the wind is blowing through you.
Yeah. It's
like your head is clear.
But I love it.
Yeah. And so some people have felt it, like I said, some people have felt it either through intentional spiritual practices, like my one daughter loves to do yoga. That gets her centered. That just causes me pain and a lot of sweating. But so everybody has something, whether it's here a lot of people go to the ocean to get that feeling. Some people go to church to get that feeling. And whatever it is, it doesn't matter. But that's your focal point. That's your goal. So what you do is you keep that in mind, and then what we do is we notice our triggers. I just thought of the example. Let's say I got divorced 20-some years ago from my ex-husband, and it's my understanding that he still cries every year at the day that he walked out of the house. So what happens to us, because we're all connected, is even though I feel nothing but love, unconditional love, I knew that the relationship couldn't go on. We were very different. And let's say I'm gardening, and I'm trying to enjoy the moment. I'm smelling the dirt. This is present moment awareness. I can smell the dirt. I hear the birds. I'm thinking what a glorious thing this is that we can plant, and all of a sudden the sadness comes in. That would be, I used to plant a garden every spring, and that was when he left. Well, then we'll pick up, if the other person hasn't finished the karma, we will pick up their feelings when we have like a moment like that where it's bringing the past back in. So what I run into with my clients a lot of time is they're spiritual seekers, and they've been trying to do their forgiveness work and moving on and growing, but the people that they've encountered in their life aren't doing the same thing. And then the stuff keeps coming up, but it's because the other half has not resolved their karma. Have you seen that come up? And they think they keep working it, but they don't realize, I run into this a lot actually with people, they don't realize that they're getting a disturbance in their bliss because it's coming from other people that want to still resolve karma. So what I found to continue to exercise those love muscles and those forgiveness muscles until we become so much stronger than all of the forces that might come in to disturb our peace.
Absolutely. The whole thing from start to whenever it finishes is a process. And I have discovered through all the work that I've done, no matter how high my vibrations are, no matter how in my peace I stay most of the time, or bliss, or whatever you want to call it, I do because I'm still in this human envelope here. I still do have these little bouts of, gosh, I'm so sad today. Where did that come from? This is good information for me anyway, and I'm sure others too, to be able to recognize that isn't you, that's someone that's still attached. And how do you detach from that? Just continue.
Very good. I'd have to say that, well, as sensitives, this is what I've come to understand about myself several years ago, is that as a sensitive, the first thing we do is accept the fact that we are sensitive. Instead of saying, God, I wish I didn't feel everybody's feelings. So what happens is we'll start getting the tools once we accept it. So I said, okay, well, help me with the tools. And I've just gone through day after day, year after year. I used to try to sit down to write a book, and I could just hear conversations in my head. I would actually feel, if my grandson or my daughter or somebody, even my son in the mainland, would be feeling a big emotion, I would feel like it just hit my chest, and I'm sure you know what I mean, and maybe some of the listeners understand. And now I've gotten to the point where the stillness in me is also the stillness around me. And the way that I've gotten there was by continuously, like I said, building my feeling center to be stronger and louder than that. And you have to know yourself really well. And this is where I've had to help others, and I've had to work on this, and you're mentioning the same thing. How do I know if it's mine or if it's somebody else's? Yeah. And that happens by taking a lot of time to be in your still space inside and really knowing your karmic history. Like, what have I been through in this life? I know I've resolved that. And then what happens is when we move slower and we're more a mindful lifestyle, we can discern these little scraps of energy that come at us. And I go, wait a minute. I don't feel like that. Because I'll have, like, when somebody wants to talk to me, I'll feel this franticness coming in around me. And it's somebody who's all frantic and they need my help. So, yeah, I used to think I'd still myself, and I'm learning if it feels like it's coming from the outside or if it's coming from the inside. So what I've been working on the last couple of years, really focusing on, is I make sure I keep my consciousness focused on my feeling center. Because that's where my writing, my creativity, my intuition, my life guidance, it all comes from my feeling center. And we're trained away from that. We're used to focusing on the outside, especially if we've been parents, we've been in school, we watch television, we're driving in traffic, we're constantly being pulled away from our center. And I encourage people to literally close your eyes if you have to, and look into your feeling center. That's where we need to stay focused. And it sounds selfish.
One of the things I do to help me do that, because it's not selfish, you have to stay there or you're not any good to yourself or anybody else. But I'll ask guidance, hey guys, is this mine or somebody else's? And I've gotten really good at hearing them tell me which one it is. And when it's someone else's, I ask my guidance, please help that person stop feeling that way or change their focus or whatever they need to do to their highest good and best outcome, and then let me feel what I feel for me. And it works
very good.
But it's that process. Because you have to keep at it.
I've noticed that at a certain point, I think I was just given this kind of like a conceptual idea that was kind of infused into me, that what it is those energies, you can't stop them from coming, because when you're a healing energy or you're a channel, those energies, just by nature of metaphysical law, are going to gravitate to you.
Absolutely.
So that's why one thing I do, that's very good to ask if you don't know, because you don't want to be fixing things constantly inside of yourself and thinking you need to do healing when it's coming from somewhere else. But they need you, but you can't help everybody. So that's very good. You can ask that angels, the guides, help that person. And another thing I've done is I've learned to just say, God bless, or whatever words, people choose. Yeah. I'll kind of send that from my feeling center outward, because if we start to, part of the reason we feel the pain is we feel we have a responsibility for it. That's karma. So what happens is it changes kind of its energy signature, at least as the way I'm sensing it, when I don't feel that I have a responsibility, that I have to fix or help everybody.
Yeah,
but when I used to feel that way that I did, then I felt it more. Go ahead.
I think it's the parent side of us, and we all have it, male, female. There's a parenting side. You want to help. You want to eat.
Right. It's hard, very hard.
Yeah, and I think that's one of our tripping points, too, is we get so caught up in wanting to help everybody that we forget to help ourselves first. And then we feel bad because, well, I didn't help so-and-so with such and such. Well, not everything is your responsibility. Everybody has their own stuff. And like a friend of mine says, everyone has their own story. I'm not really interested in yours, but I can send you whatever help you need from the other side just by asking for that. And I always ask that it happens to their highest good and best outcome. That way I don't have to try to figure out what they need. I let the guides do that.
Exactly, and their life experiences are teaching them, and as soon as we shift our idea of why we're here, we were raised through the industrial era where we were taught this is the goal of life, this is the purpose of life, this is what you're doing. And now in this dimension, in the heightened energies, there's a whole new set of reasons about what we're doing. So one of the things that we will be doing is we're going to start viewing life as we've been discussing, as a spiritual journey. And rather than seeing it as a life where we're supposed to have a 30-year career, retirement plan, this kind of car, and so the goal is going to be peace, happiness, and soul discovery. So once that paradigm shift is made in the masses, people will realize, and I've noticed in the last few years, more people are realizing if I'm feeling discomfort, it doesn't mean it's time to have an argument with somebody or have a drink. It means it's time to look within. And as soon as we make that shift, that's why I can't take that responsibility for people if they're not doing that yet.
Right.
They'll come to a point where they will on their own.
You're absolutely right. That's what I was just going to say. They will come to it or they won't, and that's their job, not yours. We've all come here with a life plan, whether we know it or not. And as we start to look around and start to wake up in this process that Alana and I are talking about, we realize that we've strayed from that life plan for many reasons. Most of it's an override of our programming from when we came here to where we are now. And when we start saying what's going on, when we start saying, why am I here? When we start looking for our raison d'etre, if you will, that's when we start to wake up and pay attention. What's really going on? What is all of this talk about? What are all these new energies? Why do I feel this way? Where's this coming from? And every time we ask a question and we realize, and here's the trick to this, who are you asking? If you're asking your guidance, which is basically your higher self, you're going to get all the right answers. If you're asking Sally Sue down the street, or I call it living by committee. That's my phrase for that.
That's a good one. I like
call
that.
everybody you know. You got to call everybody you know and ask their opinion, and you get all these conflicting things, and you end up chasing your tail. You're going the wrong direction. When you can ask the right question in the right direction, you get the right answer, and that's when all of this awesome stuff just kind of goes whoosh.
Learning how to ask your inner guidance. If I could give one gift to every person on this planet, it would be that. And I actually say that in the preface of my book. I'm like, there's going to be a lot of stuff going on in the next few years, and I want you to feel strong that you can access your inner guidance to get answers. If they say everybody needs to get vaccinations for this Ebola because otherwise it's going to spread wildfire, well, don't believe all that. Go to your insides and ask but once again, it's a muscle. It needs to be practiced, and so I point that out in my book too about once you start to have inklings of it, it's not. We are intuitive beings. So if you're not just working on it, it's not that one person is and one person isn't. Sure, some people are more experienced at it, like there's experts in all fields.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
Well, we're kind of taught not to listen to our intuition.
Exactly.
We're taught to do the committee thing. And we're taught to go look here and look there and look everywhere but inside yourself. One of my father's favorite things is you're too dim to understand that. And I believed that for many, many years until one day the light bulb came on. I said, you know what, I'm a lot brighter than you knew I was. Of course, now he's passed over and he understands and he knows better. Yay, Dad. And yay me, because it was that learning how to think for yourself and do what you got to do. We've got to take another break. Stay with us. We've got a really good conversation going here. You're tuned in to Get on the Grid with Chessie Roberts. My guest tonight is Alana Kay, and she and I are talking about basically waking up and paying attention to what's going on around us. That's one of my phrases that my clients and students look at me and roll their eyes. Oh, really? I have to do that. Yes, patience, tolerance, waking up and paying attention.
Yeah.
Balance.
Embracing all of the the aspects of creation, because creation created us, and that's the blissful place, and that's where heaven on earth lies, and that's where our harmonious relationships lie as well. So when you, like we were talking about focusing on your center, you're serving yourself as well as others, because when everybody moves to their center, then we are all going to get along, and everybody's going to be placed properly in their livelihoods, and everything's going to flow. But we can only take responsibility for ourselves. But that leads me to, when people want to learn intuition, that's where you go. You go into your still space, and then, well, you know that because I'm just talking to the audience. I'm saying we go into the still space, and we then begin to learn to understand our own inner guidance, which, as you said, we've been trained away from at a very young age. And our society has not honored it. So it takes some time, because everybody feels and senses the energies differently, and their interpretation is going to be different, because we all have different experiences. Like you've heard, like somebody sees aura colors literally with their mind's eye, whereas I will just know them. My guides will tell me what colors are in somebody's aura. I'll receive a picture in my mind. Because everybody does it different. And not everybody needs to see auras. So we have to stay centered, stay in the moment just like a child. And the way we do it is, like you were saying, pay attention. When you're stepping on the carpet, look at that and think about the steps that carpet went through before it got to your home. And think about how amazing it is that we have this television, or we have this technology, the telephone or the computers. When I'm doing dishes, listen to the sound of the water. Listen, smell the dish detergent. When you go outside, listen to the wind. Listen to the birds. We've been trained away from that. And so the way we get trained back to the inside is to start really mindful living with everything. Everything we do, even what we consider the mundane tasks. The only way to get realigned with our intuition, our inner guidance, which gets us in the right place at the right time, we get our visions, we get our epiphanies if we consider everything a spiritual practice.
That's true. When I was studying Siddha Yoga in California, one of the things that they taught is that everything, their word for that is sadhana. Everything you do is sadhana. Everything you do is your religious practice. And I'm going to change from religious practice to faith activity.
Well, yeah, your spiritual focus or your spiritual discipline.
Right, yeah. And even if it's just mopping the floor, you're cleaning your own spiritual space because you live in that house. When you take a bath, you're cleaning your own spiritual space because you live in that body. And when
and your aura.
Yes, and when you take all of that on, everything changes. It's that shift in perception from, oh, my God, this is such drudgery, to, oh, my goodness, this is awesome.
Every moment is beautiful.
And it helps. It really does. People look at me like I'm nuts. I was at the chiropractor this morning, and this lady came in, and the lady behind the desk said, how are you? She says, I'm wonderful. And she spun around to me, and she said, and how are you today? And I said, I'm awesome. And she said, oh, I want to be awesome, too. And I said, okay, poof, you're awesome, too. And she says, I don't know who you are, but I really like you.
Yeah, that's one thing that's nice about Maui is people treat each other like we've known each other forever, even in the grocery lines. See,
it just brightened everybody's day. It was wonderful.
Right. And so we can be that beacon. When you're carrying that with you, you pass it on to every person you meet. And don't be discouraged if, like, some people still want to grumble. Just keep on going. Course in Miracles even says that having a higher energy doesn't affect everybody. There are some people that will still be resistant to it. But really, and it even gets to the point of understanding as a master, you understand that we only need a certain number of people. We could probably channel that from the masters. How many people do we need? You only need a certain number of people on the planet to embrace heaven on earth, and we'll have it.
Right.
So that's why we're not supposed to focus on the violence and the problems. We need to get our minds off of it. If our instinctive center, if we feel inspired, our instinctive center says there's something we we should do about the problem, then we should do it. But we need to be in touch with that place in order to take that action. But other than that, whatever we focus on, because we are a communal energy, we are one. Our minds are connected and our hearts are connected. Whatever we focus on is what we're going to get more of. So if we focus more on love.
I would like to see that in advertising, and this is just one of my hot buttons. I've gotten to where I don't watch much television, if any at all anymore, because everything is, a lot of the shows are the war on this or the fight with that sort of thing. And a lot of the commercials are, let's sue this person, let's take this pill.
Right.
And I believe in my heart of hearts, and please don't send me emails telling me that I've lost my mind. I've already had them, don't want to read any more. But if we would change those words, because words are very powerful, because they affect your body chemistry. They really do.
Exactly.
No matter whether you say them or whether you hear them. So when somebody says, oh, it's a war on some illness somewhere, well, if you're going to fight it, and the business says, business training says, what you resist, persist. Yeah, and I'm not saying love the disease, but don't put so much
you can love the disease
and hatred into it. Yeah, just let it die.
No, really, love is the only reconstructive force that there is. There's only one reconstructive force, and I'm really trying to impress that here on Maui. We had a battle in our the recent political things turned into battles with a lot of anger and a lot of, I really think, mean behavior. And I'm like, I know that love heals. I know that I've seen it. I've used it. I've been using it for years. I read A Course in Miracles in the early 90s, and I was completely convinced that love is the healing force. And when you bring that in, it's the dominant energy. The higher it's just like when you're playing cards and you have your trump cards. Love is a trump card. It's the trump energy. When you bring that in, everything has to rise to the highest energy that's in an energy system. That's the laws of metaphysics. So people who don't understand that think you just have to beat something to get it to go away. Whenever I hear people saying they're fighting cancer, I'm saying, no, don't fight cancer.
Yeah.
Pour love on it. Love will restore homeostasis to the body.
It's a light and dark thing. Darkness can't exist when you turn the lights on. Hatred and fear and all those yucky things that people like to talk about cannot exist with love in the room. And that's true. That's just the way it is. There's no way around it, and there's not really any argument to the contrary. That's what it is.
Right. But people don't try it, so I encourage people to try it. And like you said, a word will make a difference. For instance, let's say you're in traffic and the traffic's backed up and you're in a hurry and you're feeling really frustrated, start saying the words to yourself, patience, I am patient, I am patient. And you'll feel the shift in your body. You know, when you're being impatient, it's all tightening up and your head hurts and your stomach hurts and your heart starts going faster. And this is how we gradually kill ourselves, and this is how we take off our life force energy. And it's up to us to make the choice. And
the other thing I do is when I get in a situation like that, if I'm having trouble calming down, is I'll say, okay, where are my guardian angels? Where are my guidance? You guys come help me calm down. And it's like somebody dashes cool water over me. Not an unpleasant way, but it's that calming effect. Because
you've made that choice.
Right. If you ask, they're right there to help you, and it's all energy, every bit of it. And one will negate the other one.
And the other thing is that, like I said, it's often a paradox. And I was in a meeting the other night where somebody was talking about how we manifest stuff and how we can't say, oh, those are the bad guys, because everything that's happening in society is just a reflection of our mass consciousness, and we all just have to take responsibility for our part in feeding all of the consciousness, all the different wavelengths. So then I said, yeah, I even noticed that you can like bend time. Like if I have so many things to do, I'll just slow down to nothing and say I have all the time in the world, because when you're rushing, you notice how that seems to be elusive. It just keeps getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And then I've discovered if I completely slow down to like a stop, I can get so much done in a day because you're flowing, and then you're also allowing the universe to help you, and suddenly the day feels like it's 12 or 15 hours, whereas otherwise it feels like it's like 4. So your perception, you create the perceptions inside of yourself. And the next time we get together, I'm going to talk about the next book that I'm writing, which is called Excalibur, The Law of Attraction in the Fifth Dimension, because the way we attracted in the third dimension is different than the way we attract in the fifth. And this is part of it. And it has to do with the ultimate goal is how you feel, and you attract first with how you feel with your desired result.
Well, you've given a teaser for next time.
We'll talk about that, and I'll explain how that works. And I do this all the time. I have some amazing little stories about how it works, so we can do that. I don't know how much time we have left, but did you have any more questions about heaven on earth?
Yeah, we've got quite a bit more time. We've got about 4 more minutes, and I don't have any questions right off the top of my head. Oh, you did say something in your intro here that I read. It said that the earth has descended into the fifth dimension, and it's beneficial, if not critical, that we also ascend. When did this happen, and how do we know which dimension we're in?
By the way it feels.
That's not another show by
and
itself.
If you're Yeah, no, actually, that's a very good question. It's a good way to wrap this up, because I was talking about that at the beginning. Because the third dimension feels really small, claustrophobic, frustrating, and
heavy.
It's feeling even worse now, heavy, and almost like it's gotten where it's so blocked and so chaotic that you almost can't accomplish anything if you're in that space. So if anybody's feeling totally tired, totally confused, totally overwhelmed, just shift your dimension. And so what we do is we get into the quietness, connect to nature, but we have to realize that that's a choice. Nobody's going to drag us to a different dimension. It's our decision. It's our choice, and it does take work, because we have to notice our triggers that cause us to go into panic, chaos, anger, frustration, hurry. That's the lifestyle of the masses right now. That you can pull out, you can live a different lifestyle. Got to be willing to go through the changes. It can be kind of scary, because some things are going to fall away. Relationships may fall away. Property may fall away. Jobs. But if you want to feel, it's almost like it's unbearable in the other dimension now. So that's why I say, I don't like to tell people what to do, and I don't like to scare people. So that's why I say it's beneficial, if not critical. I've noticed that the third dimension is shutting down. It's like almost, and I see it in my mind's eye as this wedge. It's like, that's it, You're under a stairwell, and you're at that little angle, that crux. There's nowhere else to go. So just open up your heart, learn to love yourself, love life, love this planet, get back to that place, because that's where we're going. And there's been a lot of work. You can find it on the internet and see if it resonates with you, but there's a lot of explanations as to why we went so far off. But we're going back to our hearts, where we're going to have a much more beautiful life than we've had recently. So
it's like
how it happened. Harmonic convergence in 1987 was when the plane became available, and it kind of went in and out, and then we had harmonic concordance, and then we had a pole shift in 2007 where the magnetics shifted, and that was when I could feel the real push. And all of this talk about the transformation, it all started happening right around 2012, and we're supposed to be closer to this reality more as we head towards 2016.
I see. Well, I want to thank you so much for being on the show, Alana. It's always delightful to talk to you. I learn so much every time, and we will definitely have to have you on again so that we can talk about your next book and how we attract in the fifth dimension. We've got to take our last break. We'll be right back. You're tuned in to Get on the Grid with Chessie Roberts. You are still with Get on the Grid with Chessie Roberts here on Intention Radio, and we're just wrapping up with Alana Kay. She's been giving us some awesome information about the fifth dimension, Earth, and I've got to wrap too, but is there anything you want them to take away with them from the show? our listeners like that salient point. So if you've got one thing that you want to make sure they get.
I'm constantly being presented with an image of a heart, the little heart shape that we're used to, like the Valentine.
Yeah.
At Costco the other day, somebody handed me a sample cookie. It was a heart. I looked down on the ground, the puddle is shaped like a heart. It's what Spirit's reminding me is that your number one focus, and it's like the Beatles song, all you need is love. It's the absolute truth. Try it on like a new piece of clothing. See if you like it. Try it on for a few days and see what happens. I always say you have to, we might be able to intellectually say, I believe or I don't believe, but just try it for a few days and try shifting the focus to love and present moment awareness and appreciation of everything. Just say thank you for this amazing experience on this planet and start to see what happens.
And that's perfect.
And if you don't like it, email me.
I would tell you that if you do decide to do this, and it's new to you, take baby steps. Just be in that one moment. Just love all you can in that one moment. And when you're done and the next moment arises, try that. And give yourself a good week to try it on because you can't make
That's why I figure a day or a week at a time. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I want to thank all of you for joining me here on tonight's show on Intention Radio. And if you'd like to send in a question or a topic that you would like covered on the show, please send your question, your suggestion, or request to me at Chessie@chessieroberts.com. And you can find all of my information at Chessieroberts.com. You can find my music at archersmeadow.com, and my book is on Amazon.com. Thank you for listening. Be sure to be with us next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, and 2 p.m. Hawaii for Get on the Grid with Chessie Roberts. Have an awesome, awesome week, and I will see you again. Love you guys. Bye.